as I said earlier, my name's Anne, and my involvement with civil society groups has been way back when, you know, in my late teens and early graduation as a nurse by profession. And then I took up education as an interest. And I like analyzing national policies, but in terms of education. So my work has been with the grassroots, with politicians, of course, with the churches, the youths, and I find myself now sitting and speaking on behalf of women, and I like it. This morning, when I heard about how women, some of our sisters, are privileged to share land with their brothers, it gives me an honor to say that I'm being one of the very privileged women here, because out of 5 brothers, I was being appointed by my dad to have his voice in the village, and also my dad is one of the chiefs in the villages, and I get to give the final word to my brothers to say whether they can distribute that land, they can sell it, they can do whatever with it. I have the last say, and that's something that women in Vanuatu don't have, and I'm privileged to have that power. But this time, I would like to speak to you about some of the experiences that happened in terms of climate change. Those of us that grew up in the 80s, in our teens, in the 80s, you can understand the problems of climate change. People talk about the climate will change, that this world will become hotter. From what we hear, that this world will become rotten. We entered the year 2000 and people are freaking out. We heard when people are talking about the Y2, the Y20, YK20. Yeah, and people started selling their laptops. I remember I was at Melbourne University at the time, and the science labs were selling computers so cheap because they were afraid that the computers will crash. And then we went through that period of 2000 up to 2010, and then now they're talking about the next decade where the world, you know, world leaders are attending meetings to say that this world, in the next decade, the degree of heat will rise by 2%. Already we start talking about how this climate change will impact on our biodiversity. When we talk about diversity, we talk about things that generate our country's economy. And in Vanuatu, where a lot of economies depend on our green resources, like kava, for example, a lot of our income is generated through local products, and that's kava, copra, beef. We have one of the best beef in the world. Sorry, Fiji. But I must say, we also are rated the happiest, 3 times the happiest place on earth. One thing that did not take our happiness away is Cyclone Pam that hit us about a month ago. It took our green away. It took our cover away. It killed the cows. But it did not take the smile off our faces. Yes, we can say amen to that. This is the Pacific way. We're born to smile, doesn't matter the circumstances. And we hope and pray that that smile will continue to light up our faces when you talk about the difficulties that are faced in the region. When we talk about that we cannot fight for our human brothers and sisters anymore, because now countries are trying to sell weapons to affect us. Now because there's cyclones that are hitting us left, right, center. The tsunamis are rising. The waves are coming out from one side of the island to the end. They're meeting above and smashing us down, destroying the houses, destroying our the lives of those tiny fishes under the water. That's some things that we talk about now. And then talk about the social tsunamis that are coming through NCDs. The non-communicable diseases like diabetes, like high blood pressure. In Fiji, according to one of the statistics that I read, is that 1 out of 4 persons will have diabetes, is living with diabetes. In Vanuatu, 1 out of 3 people will be diagnosed with diabetes. And high blood pressure is another tsunami. But these are social tsunamis that we talk about. Social disasters that are hitting the lives of our people, women and children and men, across all ages. Let alone we talk about Cyclone Pam that hit us and destroyed our trees, destroyed our coconut trees. In Vanuatu, I don't think I've had coconuts for the last 2 months. I was here in India, that's when I had coconut. We had to stop the taxi on the road to grab a coconut, to buy a coconut off the road. Now it becomes so precious. See, we're so privileged to enjoy a lot of our natural resources that sometimes when things like tsunamis, things like cyclone, they come, they hit us, they take away some of the things that we overlook and we're not thankful for. When that leaves us a space, that's when we come to realize that we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, but yet we're not appreciative of some of the things that we have every day that other countries cannot see. See, our friend here from Europe all the way, he's heard a lot about the beautiful Pacific nations, but he said, I'm so happy to be here because I'm actually here in the Pacific. How many of us wake up every day to say that I'm thankful for the people that I have, for the smiles or the families that I see, and yet I'm not thankful that we're still breathing this fresh air? My work is within the region, and I know Sharon as well, and those that work in the region. Sometimes to go to places like Bangladesh, you go to Korea. I was in South Korea last week, and I did not see any blue sky until I came back. I don't know whether it was their winter because it was cold, but I said even in the Pacific when it's cold, you can still see the blue sky. These are the things that we need to appreciate. And these are the things that we want to protect. These are the things that we want to tell our leaders, to say that when you're there on parliamentary sessions and you start to talk about climate change, don't talk about the things that will come to take away the cows and the cow lion, things that will spoil our economy, but talk about the things that will lessen the smiles of our people, will lessen the peace and security of our people. When Cyclone Pam came, it destroyed more than 3,800 homes. A little clinic that I have in front of my house that catered for the poor and the most vulnerable people, they come to my clinic and they access free medical services. I had to get over 53 people to come into my little clinic, and I had to get about 5 families into my little house. And that night, I could see the anger of cyclones. It's like the devil came and worked on our land and left the next morning. When we woke up, a lot of families' homes were destroyed. People talk about it. We're still under shock. Our economy is down. Over lunchtime, we've just heard one of our young parents was like, "Oh, it's so sad to hear that your families are selling passports and for money." This is true. These are some of the political decisions that our leaders make, not knowing that when you're selling passports, you're selling your identity, you're selling your land, you're selling the ownership of your people. Sometimes, we need to think twice before we make such decisions. And those of us that are in civil society groups, it's always important that we carry the voice of our people. We carry the voice of our chiefs, we carry the voice of our pastors, we carry the voice of our women, our men, our youths, and our children. It is very, very important. And I'm so glad that I'm here to say that Cyclone Pam is not and will not be the only monster that will come in to destroy our land. We will have tsunamis, we will have other cyclones, we will have earthquakes, but preparedness of the people is very important. How do we rebuild nations? By rebuilding an individual. We rebuild an individual by making sure that that individual is equipped with the basic knowledge that they have in order to prevent themselves and their families against such tsunamis. And when I talk about natural disasters, I talk about social disasters that will come in and will continue to destroy our land and our people. And that is the substantive amount and growing, the increased amount of NCDs that are hitting us, such as diabetes and such as high blood pressure. So brothers and sisters, I'm sitting here today because I know that I have a voice to bring to the table to say that let's not forget when we talk about climate change, that change of modernization that will come in to affect our Pacific way of living, the way we cook our food, the way we dress, the way we walk past our elders, the respect that we give to our elders is very important. Those of us that we grew up in Christian family, and one of the very first basic teaching that we get from our families is respect the elders. In the next 10 years, will our children continue to respect the chiefs? In the next 10 years, will our young children continue to respect the churches? Now we're talking church openly. It was so lovely to see our sisters from Tonga reading the verse from the Bible. Will we still read the verse from the Bible in the next 20 years? That really depends on how governments discuss treaties amongst countries. So we're lucky that we have our bounding that bounds our sisters and brother neighbor countries, and that's the MSG. And I hope and pray that the spirit of oneness, the spirit of the Pacific Way will continue to live amongst us, our people, and that we will teach our children to make sure that we support one another. I come to Fiji, and the Fiji family will look after me. The Fiji family come to Vanuatu, and the Vanuatu family will look after Fijians. Wherever we travel within the Pacific region, let's hope that the spirit of oneness will continue to build our nation strong. Our Pacific nation, when we talk about the Pacific framework, we not only talk about the economic development issues, the social development issues, the political countries that will divide each other, but let's continue to talk about how deep our forefathers lived in the last 30, 50, 100 years. And let's hope that we will take these teachings from the 100 years onwards to make sure that in our next generation they will continue to speak and be proud of the Pacific Way, that this is our way of living. It doesn't matter, we're from the small island nations. We will take every single step to ensure that we protect our islands in whatever disaster that may come to hit us. So thank you very much, and I hope that what I've shared will continue to help us to hold into account that we're from the islands. We learned a lot of education from our traditional way. I grew up with my grandma, how to weave mats, how to feed pigs, how to make gardens of yams and taros, and we'll continue to teach it that way. And we will hope that we will push in international curricula, that our children will still do the same in the next 10 to 20, or in the next 50 to 100 years. Thank you, everyone.